Key lime pie, with its creamy lime center, fluffy whipped cream top, and delicate graham cracker crust. To a variety of decadent cookies, like the simple but rich, warm, and soft chocolate chip cookie. What is your secret indulgence? Learn the skills behind these baked delights from a world-class master baker. Our guest today is the heart and soul of the pantry, a local gourmet food store. He will share with us his unique talent and endeavors that he has encountered on his journey to the top of his vocation.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of Person to Person, the show that looks deeper into the lives of career professionals. The guest you are about to meet is a world-renowned baker who has clients from all over the United States and even in other countries. He has been pursuing the art of baking for over 20 years, ever since he dropped out of college and looked more interested in his family's business of cooking. He is now the co-owner of a gourmet food store, The Pantry, where he freshly bakes some of the finest desserts with his team of excellent bakers, as well as dealing one-on-one with loyal customers, making every personable event memorable. We would like you to meet today's guest, Andy Rolleri. How we doing, Andy?
Hi, James. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. What inspired you to become a baker?
I worked a long time in different aspects of the food industry, restaurants, hotels, clubs. I was a private chef for a long time. And I always seemed to just gravitate towards baking and pastry. It was always a favorite part of the food service for me. I did that when I was in California in a big hotel, and I really took a liking to it, so I sort of stopped cooking and started doing pastry at that time in my career, and it was fairly early on, and so I did that for a number of years, and I just stuck with it. I still cook occasionally, but most of the time I do pastry and desserts.
Okay. We have a video of you telling us where you learned how to bake. Why don't we take a look at that?
Sure. Actually, my second job out of culinary school was in a restaurant in LA that my roommate worked at, and I went in as the pastry chef there. And when I started, my boss at the time was we used to call him the little big guy. He was a 5-foot-tall French maniac, and he gave me a 2-week trial. He said, if you can work with me and work here, you have a job, and if you can't, you're fired after 2 weeks. So I went in and I started baking, and it was extremely difficult, but I needed the job desperately, and I made it happen.
As a baker, what made you decide to open up The Pantry, a gourmet food store?
That was really a decision based on timing in my life, and I was at a point where I was making a decision as if I was going to stay as an employee for another person, or if I was going to move out and open my own business. And I always did want to start my own business or start a business, and the food or restaurant business is a lot of dictated by the schedule of restaurants, which means late nights and long hours, and I was looking to move away from that. So when I had the opportunity to do this, a lot of it was based on getting out early and having a life and a schedule, and this is one aspect of the food industry that really allows you to have that, whereas others don't necessarily are not as flexible to that. So that was a big impetus for me to do it.
What kind of responsibilities and tasks do you have on the day-to-day basis?
Nowadays, since I own my own store, I would say there's probably, I always say, I like to think it's more baking than it really is, but it's probably 10% baking and pastry, and 90% kind of dealing with getting food at the correct price, making sure people show up for work, dealing with customers and taking orders, typing in information into the computer, paperwork. The stuff that's sort of behind the scenes, you don't really see it, but that is also part of the business. So, but I do love, my favorite part of working is actually cooking or baking.
Now, what kind of desserts do you sell, and do you have a favorite of your own?
Sure. Probably the biggest single seller at the store are cookies, which you have a tray here from the store. We sell thousands a week. There's a number of different ones we do every day. We do special cookies, we do trays and platters, and a lot of people get cookies donated for events and stuff like that. So we do a lot of those. We make all kinds of cakes and tarts, fruit pies, cream pies. Key lime pie is probably one of our biggest sellers. We do make ice cream and sorbet in the store, so we do that as well. And mini pastries and small stuff so people can have, if they're having like a party and they want to have a variety of stuff, they have that as well. And I would say probably my single favorite thing is a chocolate eclair, which is, it's not really a top of the culinary world's pastry as far as thing. It's a very simple dessert, but it's good, and I grew up making that, and it's just one of my favorites.
The New York Times, the Connecticut Bites, and the Connecticut Post say the pantry is highly talked about, and not to mention the Weekly's Best of Fairfield County has given the pantry numerous awards every year, including Best Desserts, Best Prepared Foods, and Best Local Gourmet Food Store. How have you been able to be so successful in your career?
We've always sort of held the philosophy that more is not necessarily better. So we've attempted to control the amount of business that we take in every week, so that we could, what we did actually was correct, and customers were happy. People got what they ordered. People, got good quality stuff, because the tendency is for when you try to do more of something, the quality doesn't necessarily hold. So we want people that come to the store to be able to come in and get the same consistent thing week in, week out, regardless of whether it's good or bad. I mean, hopefully it's always good, but we want, if you're a customer in the store and you love our chicken pot pie, we want you to come in and get that every week, and it's always the same. It's always fresh. It's always good. So you tend to lose that when you try to get, do more business and push people a little bit harder. You tend to lose the quality, and you also lose. I think the employees don't appreciate that when they're just slave driven all the time. Our philosophy has always been here to do to buy good quality stuff and to use good recipes and put sort of that quality first idea out versus just trying to make money. So it's at the expense of necessarily making as much money as we possibly could. We try to offer a good quality product at a reasonable price to people, where customers come in and they can buy a dessert that would be like a homemade dessert, or something they'd get from a quality pastry shop, but not for a ton of money, or not for nothing that tastes manufactured or cheap.
Do you have any advice for those who are interested in becoming a professional baker like yourself?
Sure. I would say my number one piece of advice would be to have a backup plan. If you have the ability to go to school and have another thing to fall back on, that would be great. It's a highly competitive industry. There's a lot of average paying jobs for bakers, and just in the restaurant business in general, it's sort of the nature of the business. So if you are in it and you're in it to make money, it's difficult. It can definitely happen, but it's a difficult thing to do. I'm lucky enough to be one of those people that has been successful at it financially. But it's one of those businesses that you have to love what you do first, And then if you're successful financially, then that's the lagniappe, you know. If you're in the business and you're in it you open a restaurant, you think it's going to be all, you know, money and no hard work. It's going to be a rude awakening. It's always hard, but you gotta love that. So.
Okay. Today we got to meet someone who began his professional career unsure of how to pursue it, and with a family's love of food, realized his passion for baking. Now he is a co-owner of a widely popular gourmet food store, where he creates the finest desserts in the area. With a successful business and partnership for the last 10 years, we can only hope for the best for the future. We would like to thank Andy Roleri for joining us today. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, James.
We hope you enjoyed meeting one of many successful professionals, and we would like you to tune in next week. Thank you, and have a good day.
This has been Person to Person with your host, James Marcy, directed by Andrew Moore. Person to Person is a Norwalk Community College student production.